Submitted for your approval. Submitted for your approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted for your approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another dimension. Self.
Submitted for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another Twilight Zone.
Submitted for your approval.
The Twilight Zone.
Submitted for your approval.
The Twilight Zone.
Hello, hello, hello. You're listening to a podcast not only of sound but also of mind. It's Time to Rewind is a podcast that takes a journey into a wondrous land of time loops whose boundaries are that of imagination. I'm your host, Bubbawheat, and each episode my guest and I explore these time loops one loop at a time. This stop is Trapped in the Twilight Zone, and this is the 10th stop at 2020's Season 2, Episode 9, Try, starting at 26 minutes and 45 seconds, with Mark saying Bill Thompson, and ending at 26 minutes and 48 seconds, with Mark and Claudia sharing a mirthless look at each other. Here with me once again is my guest, Niall McGowan from Batminute. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm fine. I was just looking at the Mark here and this increasing exasperation at each attempt.
Yeah, I think this montage in general has, this entire montage is less than a minute long, and we're stretching it out into 6 episodes, and the first episode was 30 seconds, and that was technically even before the montage started.
Yeah.
That was like the section in between the two montages.
Well, what's the time for this clip then? Is this like 2 seconds now?
This one is 3 seconds, and then the next one is 2 seconds.
Oh my god. It's just like on a countdown to like having a clip that somehow like it doesn't even have time.
Yeah, and this one he's moved on from John Johnson to Bill Thompson, so he brought back the Thompson.
Yeah, he's circled back to Thompson already. Unless this was like, oh no, there was like 87 other tries before I got back to the T's. And I think so, yeah, back to Thompson again.
Yeah, and it is just so bizarre that he just keeps pushing this joke and just getting these slightly different reactions, but he just and it's like, the definition of insanity is trying to do the same thing over and over and again and expecting different results. And this is like just the next step over, where it's like trying slightly different things each time and expecting wildly different results.
The thing I can't get past too is like it's not a good joke. Like it's not like it's a well crafted, like beautifully, like, oh, I spent so much time coming up with this. It's a glib remark that's just like, most people, at least she's been honest with him and been like, giving him the kind of, the unamused stare. Because most people, if they heard this, would just kind of go like, and just move on with their day. I was thinking of the fact he's so hung up with the goddamn thing. Oh man. I guess that could be a good indication though as well, talking about like the definition of insanity, because it is like the guy is crazy. I guess this should be a sign that he's absolutely flipped it, that he would do this over and over and over again and not actually even really change what he's doing.
And even though we don't get like the Groundhog style montage where in Groundhog's Day they would get like the slight overlap where you would see that Bill Murray would do the same thing up to a certain point, and then whenever he makes a mistake, that's where he would change it, and then the next time he would do everything right, everything exactly the same way up to that point, and then change what he does at that point. And we don't see that here, but I think we do get the impression that he's treating the day the same way, where he's doing all the events up to this point he's doing in exactly the same way. But I think that, there's probably some butterfly effect situations going on where, maybe his tempo is slightly different, his body language is slightly different, and she is in a different mood slightly each time.
Yeah, because presumably, like, the, it can't craft it to the point of, because everything else he would have said to her leading up to this point, it would have been the same scenario, but like there's always going to be like slight variations, like involuntarily as well. So, again, even from his delivery of certain lines and stuff will put her, in a different mindset. So yeah, her reaction each time will be like a little bit like when eventually, not to spoil what happens, but when eventually she does laugh, that could have been prompted more about like something he did earlier that put her more at ease to be open to laughing to a terrible joke, rather than, the actual joke itself. Like it could have been a minor thing he did 10 minutes beforehand that sort of sets that in motion. And whereas, he could come out with the funniest name ever, and it could have been like, but no, she's not into it because of something he said that put her off again 10 minutes beforehand. It gets so complicated, all this stuff. We get into the real dirty minutia of things and how human interactions actually work.
I feel like comedy is, it's 60% the actual building blocks of comedy, like the timing, the punchline, what you're actually seeing, the visuals, but 40% of it is the person watching the comedy.
Yeah.
And if the person watching the comedy is not in a funny mood, nothing's going to make them laugh.
Yeah. Have you ever seen like a live comedian test material? Like actually letting the audience know, like, this is new stuff. I'm wanting to gauge what you think of it.
Not that I can remember. I've only been to just a very small handful of live comedy, and the last time was probably well over 10 years ago.
As that they had, because I've seen a guy who's much like John Thompson from the other episode, a fellow called Stuart Lee, who's a UK comedian, and actually a bit like Topher Grace. He has a very glib manner about him, but times I've seen him where he's like, he'll just flat out tell you that, like, yes, you are essentially a guinea pig audience, and I'm wanting to see how this material works on you. And as if something doesn't land, he'll be like, okay, all right, he'll make a note on stage, cutting that, no problem, and then move on and stuff. Although he also has very weirdly similar, like, a lot of his humor is in repetition. Like he has he does that business of, well, if you repeat something enough times, it'll be funny. And then it'll stop being funny, and then it'll start being funny again. Eventually, the more you do it, and he had a whole
like Sideshow Bob and the Rakes.
Exactly, yeah. But he did like a whole bit about he had a tour called Carpet World, and it turned out like the inspiration from that was that someone just mentioned to him, like, oh, there's a shop called Carpet World, and he's like, I was imagining like a world that was literally made of carpets, and he starts just describing what it is. He's like, there's a person, but instead of like a head, he's got like a cushion. And then you go on with things like that. And it starts off funny, but then it gets into things like, and then instead of like, fingernails, he would have like staples for like carpet staples and stuff. And it gets more and more into it. And eventually you start going into like, oh my God, dude, stop. But he just keeps going with it to the point of like, and then, like the little strings of like inside, in the fibers of a carpet, that was his DNA. And like stuff like that, and eventually it does come around to him, and like, okay, now it's gone beyond the pale of ridiculousness again, to like, it's just trying to hoe that line, which is, but Mark isn't doing that at all, though. He's giving you the same, like, he's not developing the joke, like it's just the same meh thing that he's throwing out every time. I think it would have been funny for us, the audience, I guess, if we'd seen him develop it in some way where it actually the joke mounted in the montage and he kept adding in things and he was actively making a routine, but he doesn't. It's just the same two names, just like first name and last name. Work.
And the one routine, like he actually discusses building this comedy dell'arte routine with the security guard. But we don't actually get to see that. He just, talks about it. Yeah.
So it feels like, this could be like, this could have made him really charming if we had seen that, like, he did a long monologue that was all really funny. And then you found out from a montage, it's like, no, that was that was hammered out over 70 odd attempts where I managed to get every single beat. But it's just the fact that he's not charming. That's the thing. All his charm is all from manipulation and all from trying again, where he's only inching a little bit along each time because he guess he's just not that charismatic a guy.
Everything from, even his name, he lies about his name where he says that it's Mark with a C.
Yeah. Was it the indication? I thought they were going to go really into it where it was just like Mark wasn't even his name at all. Like that would have been even more horrifying to find out his name's John Johnson or something. And he's like, oh no, I just found out you had a crush on a guy called Mark, so that is where I got I'm not Mark in the slightest, but maybe that was one of we find out his name is actually John Johnson, and he gives her a little sideway glance, like, you like that name? Does that sound pretty good? Like, oh yeah, John Johnson's my favorite name. Like, well, I got a surprise for you. Luckily, that's actually my name.
I kind of think it fits with this montage that he's just changing things a little bit in order to get the better response.
Yeah,
because I do think that I do think that he does have a lot of the same interests as her. Like I think that the reading that he's doing, he is enjoying the reading. They do talk about stuff in the past where they do have what seems like genuine connections. Like whenever they're talking about the Museum of Natural History, and he finds out that they have the same favorite exhibit with the layers of dirt, and he has that moment where he's like, "Really, you're not kidding me? That's my favorite too. You are still surprising me."
Yeah.
And it's like part of that is the episode hinting that he's giving another hint that he's in a time loop and he's done this before. But also, that is something that the two of them honestly have in common. Like, that is an honest connection between the two of them, where it's like, you could see that these two could have had potentially a real relationship if they had the time to develop it properly. And he was being honest from the very beginning about, yes, we do have these connections, and these other things, we're not 100% in sync, but we're not too far off.
Yeah, I don't know, Matt. I don't think she'd been able to get past the John Thompson joke. I think that would have just destroyed the whole thing. And sometimes you almost do want to have a really drastic reaction and be like, oh yeah, Bill Thompson. And she'd be like, Bill Thompson. That's the name of the man who killed my father. Like something really dramatic where he's like, oh, okay, definitely won't use that one again.
Yeah, but, instead we just get, Bill Thompson, and, once again, I did my 2-minute Google search, and we have William H. Thompson, and he was an American radio personality and voice actor that started in the 30s. Up until his death, and I think he was probably most well known as the voice of both the White Rabbit and the Dodo in Disney's Alice in Wonderland from 1951, and he was also the voice of Mr. Smee in Peter Pan.
I think he did Droopy as well.
Yeah, I think he did some of the Droopies.
Yeah, some of the Droopy. That was on his CV, just that line. Some of the Droopies. It's like, which ones? Oh, I don't even remember myself. But some of them. They're out there. You can find them.
And he's Thompson spelled with a P, and then Bill Thompson without the P is an artist and children's book illustrator. And he's illustrated Karate Hour, Building with Dad, Baseball Hour, and Soccer Hour. So
I wonder if Mark is having to go as well. Like, I should emphasize, I'm spelling it Thompson with a P. Would that be funnier, or is that less? She's like, what the hell are you talking about? All right, no, I'll write it down for tomorrow. Okay, try Thompson without P.
Remember to pronounce the P mentally so she knows the difference.
It's like Bill Thompson. And then she's like, like rolling around on the floor. Like, nailed it. Mark, you've done it again.
Pretty gold.
Mm.
And I also, took a note of his outfit, which I think this is the biggest change in his outfit from the previous times. This time he's wearing just his flannel without the outer jacket, and he's not wearing glasses this time.
Get that it feels in another scenario, another show, because obviously they're trying to go for, the creep factor of this. You don't want to make it too silly. But you could have had a montage where he uses like he's got like a green mohawk. The next time he's like a full blown goth guy or something. He's just trying everything to see like, oh, you into this?
So
they still doing the same joke. Like everything, he's changed everything else about himself.
Do you think that those glasses are real? And then there is like one or two times in the previous montage where you see him without glasses. Do you think that he's wearing contacts, or if these are like fake glasses? Like, wearing glasses will make me look more intelligent because she
at
is
one
an
point, at one point
person.
in a previous spin, she's like, "Oh, I like guys in glasses," and he's like, "All right." On his way in, like the next morning, picked himself up a pair of glasses, and then seemed to get a little bit further this time. Okay, keep them going for a bit. I'll try them without them today and see where we go.
Yeah, because it seems like he does. There's a few moments where he has them without glasses, and some where he has them with glasses within the various montages. So it's not like it's not like a progression.
Yeah, I would feel that like, if I was the head candidate, I would say that he doesn't need those glasses. Those are random ones he picked up at a supermarket on the way in, just to be like, yep, I'm going to make a scene. Either she said she likes guys with glasses, or he just feels like this will make me seem more,
More
academic.
pretentious.
Yeah, I'll give off that vibe. But I still really would have liked to have seen like cliched hippie Mark, just like trying everything. Shows up in a French aristocrat outfit one time. And somehow he still managed to get her into the museum. Like he was still so good at winning this woman over, even in the most ridiculous outfit. No, I got her to the Bill Thompson joke at least.
I think the closest thing that we get is he has in two iterations of the outside moments, he's wearing kind of like an almost hipster looking scarf. Because in the one where he accidentally knocks her into the truck, he's wearing it just like loose hanging down. And then in the one at the actual beginning of the episode, he's wearing it and it's like tucked neatly inside of his jacket. And I guess that he leaves it with coat check or something.
Yeah. There'll always be the ones like they could have cut back to him one time. He's just wearing a Spider-Man outfit. It's like you could have done the joke. Oh no. But again, I think we did mention the fact that the director of this episode, Jen McGowan, was like, someone's be hitting up ancestry.com after this now to see if there's any relation at all. But she actually does spell it the same way too, because I've seen Gowans out there and I've seen McGowans, but sometimes it's with an E instead of an A and stuff like that. But she's got it, or sometimes it's with like capital M, everything else lowercase. But she's got it like the capital M, capital G, A at the end. It's like, it's exact. So there's a hope I'm related to this woman some way. But she might have been very much like, no, this is a serious. It's much more of a. We're hoping to amp up the creep factor, so nothing silly. Okay.
I didn't get a chance to ask her. I did talk to her about this episode. That's the first episode of this chunk talking about Try, and she was really gracious and a great guest, a great person to talk to, and she's been the first filmmaker that I've actually been able to talk to on this show.
Oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, but once again, we're down to 3 seconds, and that's all I have for this one. So I do have yet another classic episode of the Twilight Zone to talk about, and this is another one of the probably top 10 episodes, and that's Eye of the Beholder.
Yeah.
And this is the one where we get most of the episode focused on this woman in a hospital bed with bandages all over her face, talking about can you make me look normal? And the thing that I had seen this episode before, but I had completely forgotten that it not only takes place in, the twist is that everybody else has this weird face with like kind of a pig nose and a heavy brow and big ears. And not only that, but their faces are almost identical. Like there is very little variation to the prosthetic makeup. It's like, and behind the scenes, it's like they use the exact same mold for everybody. But
Yeah.
I had forgotten that it takes place like in this dystopian future, and there's like a scene where there's like their leader talking on TV, and he's like giving a speech about how conformity is good and differences are bad.
Yeah, yeah. As I recall too, he's doing very kind of like Hitler-esque gestures. Like it's
Yeah.
very like it looks like an old. So I think it's there's a little bit of commentary going on there as well.
Yeah, and they talk about, if they can't fix her, then she can go off into a village where people that look like her all live together. And she's like, that's not separation, that's segregation.
Yeah, yeah. Although the thing is, it's a good episode, and it's got a great, very memorable twist at the end, and it's so artfully shot. It's like Bernard Herrmann did the score for it, so obviously you're in good hands there. And it has the trick for the longest time of like you don't see anyone else's faces. Like it's at least it's all a POV shot and stuff, and it's that's all great. But at the same time, it also does strike you as like this was a 2-line pitch where you're like, wouldn't it be something if there was a world where everyone was ugly and the beautiful person was considered to be ugly? We can make an episode out of that, right? And like, yeah, okay. You get the 45 pages for it. Like 45 pages. Okay, we're gonna have to stretch this one out, all right? But
although it did surprise me a little bit that the reveal doesn't happen at the very end. The reveal happens like at kind of the beginning of the third act, and then you get a lot of time with her like running around in the hospital and seeing all these people with different faces, and then she meets the point of contact that's going to take her to the village, and he's like a normal, attractive-looking guy. And they have the conversation about how everything's going to be okay. And it's actually, kind of an extended ending that goes into that. And I do think, even though it's well done, watching it, knowing the twist, it feels a lot more obvious.
Yeah.
that they're hiding everybody's faces. Although you can, like, if you look closely, you can tell that, even though they're hiding the faces, everybody is still in the prosthetic makeup, because you can see like just the very slight edges of the ears. So it's not like they didn't put them in makeup and they just hid their faces. They actually went through the makeup but still hid their faces.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of those ones too. Like you have to give it props for just if you had randomly seen that on television in 1960, that would have been mind-blowing. Like that as a concept would have been like, what? Just even in terms of the actual delivery of it as well. It's like, oh yeah, look how cleverly we managed to trick you into this for the longest time as well. So yeah, I know that it's one of the most famous episodes. It's like, well, there's a reason for it. It was done very, very well.
And I really enjoyed watching it too. It was another great episode. It holds up, other than that slight the slight issue with seeing the twist well ahead of time. But that's I don't fault it for that. But once again, I'd like to thank you for talking with me today and powering through this montage. So once again, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you online?
You can find me elsewhere talking about Batman, all the Batman movies, minute by minute, at Batminute. And you can find that on all good podcatchers, Apple Podcasts, and you can find us on social media on Twitter under it's Batminute, Instagram is the Batminute, and then Facebook is the Batminute Listeners Cave.
And as always, I'm Bubbawheat, and you can find me at flightstights@movienights.com. You can find me on Twitter at Bubbawheat. You can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on Anchor.fm, as well as anywhere else where you listen to podcasts. And we have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, where you can join to discuss episodes as they come out, as well as time loops in general. And until next time, I will still be here, trapped in the Twilight Zone.
Submitted for your approval. Submitted for your approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted
Light.
for your approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted
Light.
for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another dimension.
Submitted
Light.
for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another dimension. Self.
Submitted
Light.
for your
Shadow.
approval.
Another Twilight Zone.
Submitted for your approval.
The Twilight Zone.
Submitted for your approval.
The Twilight Zone.
Bill Thompson.